I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Motion to approve the minutes of the April 11th, 2024 regular board meeting.
So moved.
Is there support? Support. Moved and supported that we accept the minutes of the April 11th, 2024 regular board meeting as presented. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Being none, carried. You received a copy of your treasurer's report. Comments, questions? If not, place them on file. Manistee Township Planning Commission meeting met March 6th, 2024, April 17th, 2024, and a special meeting on April 17th, 2024. You've received the minutes of those meetings. What are your wishes?
Place them on file.
No corrections or anything? No comments? Okay. There was no appeal, is that correct?
Correct.
Anyone with anything to bring before the board at this time? Larry?
I'm getting, they say I don't live where I live because I have two addresses. 1456, and I call everybody I called, just puts me off and somebody didn't do their job. I live in the same place since 1972, my dad built that. It's at 1456, but.
What address are you?
1456 and I have two of them, 478. Same land description. That's my argument. Consumers supposedly, they changed it. And I had a mortgage and they said, leave it alone, you'll have to start over. But it's Eklund Road, 478, and 1456 Olson Road. Exact same place that everybody knows.
Wait a minute. 1456 is Olson?
Olson Road and
The other one is
478
Eklund?
is Eklund Road, just because Sam Carey built under, so it made it another, had to make it a road.
The driveway's a road.
So it's a driveway.
Have you talked to our new assessor?
I talked to everybody, everybody's blaming somebody else.
Okay.
Somebody says somebody's not doing their job. That's all I've heard from everybody. I called the state, they wouldn't talk to me, I'm not computer literate.
Or
I
denied.
got enough trouble answering my phone. But she went on there, they wouldn't talk to her, so it's just been a mess.
They told
And I
us to
live at
come
the
to
same
the
place.
township meeting.
So what you want is you want 1456 Olson Road.
No, I guess it's gonna be 478 Eklund, I can accept that. But my land description, where I pay the taxes on, they wanna go back from 2019 that I owe for school tax, it's not my homestead.
Taking your homestead away.
It's been my homestead.
Okay.
But nobody's, state don't wanna talk to you. Go online and I just hit a wall. I talked with Connie Anderson before, same thing, she said somebody isn't doing their job.
No, have you talked to, we have a new assessor.
Sharon, I talked to her too.
Sharon?
She could only go back and fix this year. I
She
don't
fixed-
understand that.
She fixed 2023 and 24.
Well, 23, 24.
But she could go back, which doesn't make sense.
Okay. Well, let me,
I just need it's the same, the land description. I mean, I've got bills that says not responsible for property taxes paid on the wrong description. We all know that. It's the same property description, never has changed.
okay. Will you give me a chance to follow up on it now?
Yes, I will.
All right. Okay. Anyone else?
No.
Okay, county commissioner isn't here.
Not under
Karen, you got anything going on?
Yes. So for the month of April, there was one new written complaint received, some unused furniture that was sitting in the road right away on a parcel at 302 Parkdale Avenue. I sent a letter to the parcel owner and that was cleaned up. There were 4 zoning permits issued, 16 requests for construction permits, and 2 fees paid to reinstate expired permits. The Planning Commission held a public hearing, as you guys know, on the 17th of April to hear public comments, to discuss and review a potential amendment to the zoning ordinance. That item was tabled, and the planning commission will continue to discuss that topic at our next meeting. The township has been approached by another developer that is interested in constructing a multifamily apartment complex on the parcel located at the corner of Parkdale Avenue and Frost Road. They have submitted a site plan, and I have completed my review of that. The planning commission has scheduled a public hearing for Wednesday, May 15th at 9 a.m. Jeremy Jones from Prism Power has requested a renewal on the special land use permit for the Heathland Solar Farm project. The planning commission did approve that for another year. And then finally, I attended the Riley Apartment Milestone Gathering that was held at the Old Kennedy School parcel, which is 610 Parkdale Avenue, to celebrate the future location for a 288 unit multi-family apartment complex.
Thank you. Questions? Thanks.
A lot going on.
I don't see Joe here. Not sure if he's working or whatever in the fire department. Rick Klaus, for the month of April, all establishments are in compliance. That's our liquor inspector. Township updates, this is a reminder that this Saturday from 8:30 to 12:30 north of the fire station across the road, we have garbage or trash collection. That's for big items. Not garbage, it's trash. It's big items that you don't normally set out to the road. It's stuff that give you an opportunity to clean up around the house or whatever. As I suggested, they will be there between 8:30 and 12:30. In the past, we've had Boy Scouts there. They've always been willing to chip in and help. A lot of dads have come down and given us a hand. I'm not sure what we're gonna have this year. I guess the suggestion I was make is that if you can get it in the trailer or in the car, you can get it out of the trailer or out of the car. I mean, you may not have as many people there to help as we have in the past. Anything else on the township front? We met with MDOT this morning on the 2027 rebuild of US 31. It's a long process, but there's a lot of elements that are involved. And it's gonna take quite some time to put this all, it's a $35 million project. It's gonna go from M55 all the way up to, all the way Brian's, Stonic Road. Going all the way through the city. So it's a big job. That's all I have. Katie, you're here from the planning department with regards to the land bank.
Yes, thank you. All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Katie Mell. I am the planning director for the county planning department, but tonight I am here on behalf of the Land Bank Authority. In late 2023, the planning department was designated as staff to the Land Bank Authority, and one of the first kind of tasks they gave me was getting out before all of our local units of government and giving an overview of what the Land Bank Authority is and how it can be a resource to your community. So land banks are designed to acquire and maintain vacant, abandoned, and tax delinquent properties, and to use their legal authority granted through the state statutes to return these properties to a productive use. Land banking in Michigan began with Public Act 258 of 2003, the Land Bank Fast Track Act, and that's the state statute that completely controls the authority, but within that there are some kind of special authorities given to a land bank where they can do quiet clear title, and that is essentially just an expedited clear title process for when they acquire properties through foreclosure. Due to limited resources, land bank authorities in rural communities like our own tend to rely on partnerships to accomplish activities, whether that be with our local units of government or private developers. Habitat for Humanity is another big partner. I know that one of their biggest feats is finding land to put houses on. A lot of times they can collect the volunteers, they can get together the funding, but then it's, you know, where are we gonna put this house? So it'll be really exciting to see what kind of partnerships we can have with Habitat for Humanity in the future. I gave you guys a couple of handouts, and I'm just gonna kind of walk through the flat handout that I had given you. So we see the typical life cycle for an abandoned property. A property goes blighted, a lot of times it's vacant by that point, falls tax delinquent, becomes foreclosed, and then it's sold at auction to a speculative buyer who says, I'm gonna pump some money into this, I'm gonna DIY it, and they realize that it's, you know, got way more work than what it's worth, and we see that cycle repeat. So that's where land bank authorities can step in, clear the title for the property. Once it's acquired, they can rehab it and make it occupiable again, sell it, get it back on the tax roll that way. It can be demolished and just made a clean slate for a developer to come in and make it that much more attractive of a property. Or it can be put to use as public space. And then we've even seen in instances where in our platted subdivisions, if it's like a smaller lot, maybe the best use of that property isn't to put another house on it, but to offer it up to the neighbors. And although we're not getting another structure back on the tax roll, it's still improving the property values for that neighborhood and is overall a good thing. So that is kind of in a nutshell the typical duties of a land bank and the authority that's granted to them under the state statute, utilizing that foreclosure process, acquiring the property, and getting it ready for development again. There are some additional benefits that can be sought with the land bank authority. We have grant opportunities, which I'll get into, but I just want to touch on brownfield plans as well. I don't know how familiar you guys are with brownfield plans, but typically under the Brownfield Redevelopment Act, a property has to be contaminated, environmentally contaminated in order to qualify. And then there's eligible activities that the developer can basically pay themselves back through the TIF, tax increments financing. But there are other eligible activities under the act that don't necessarily have to do with environmental cleanup. So how the land bank steps in with that, if a property is in the land bank's name, it actually qualifies for a brownfield plan and those tax incentives. And if someone were to put a property into the land bank's name to tap into the brownfield TIF, it would be solely for that purpose, with the understanding that the property is reverting back to the private ownership. So that is a way that land banks can assist. And then finally, with grant opportunities, which I know you guys are familiar with the Old Kennedy School, we saw a lot of money come down from the state recently, $3 million approximately brought into Manistee County, which is really exciting, especially considering our land bank authority is fairly new. Our land bank was formed in 2018, and if we did not have that at this time, it would have been a missed opportunity with the state land bank authority and bringing in that $3 million. So looking at the recent success column to the right of this handout, we see the roughly $600,000 awarded, and this money came in 4 rounds. So this was from one of the first rounds. We saw the old DAV building come down, and then we also saw Kennedy School come down. And then we had a few other just kind of random residential parcels. And since I've created this form, we have been approved for rounds 3 and 4. And under this funding, a lot of it was demolition because it's blight elimination funding, but there was also the opportunity to stabilize properties and even renovate publicly owned properties. So with round 3, we are demolishing, I think, nearly 10 individual privately owned residential and commercial structures. One of them is actually in Manistee Township, if you guys are familiar with the old storefront on M22. That just kind of sits by itself. That one was approved. And then for rounds 4, the Old Northern Hotel on Washington Street, they were awarded $1.5 million for stabilization, which is really exciting to see that funding going into one of our historic buildings. The developers I know have had a plan to develop it, and I think this is kind of the support and push that they needed. So really exciting stuff happening with the blight elimination funding. That program was not cyclical, so we don't know if and when more funding will come up in the future, but we're hopeful that that program or something similar will be funded in the future, and that will be another opportunity to bring dollars into Manistee County. Lastly, I just wanted to point out the 12234 Maple Street property in Bear Lake. And this one actually did follow that typical life cycle for an abandoned property, was acquired by the Land Bank Authority through the foreclosure process, and then donated to Tiny Developers, Inc. with the promise that they would rehabilitate and bring that property back to a viable property on the tax roll. So just a few examples of how Manistee County has already tapped into the Land Bank Authority. And, like I keep saying, it'll be really exciting to see how we can continue to progress in the future. So I know that was a very high-level overview of the couple things that the Land Bank Authority can offer, but I really just wanted to make sure you guys, have that high-level overview, know that we exist, and if you ever have any questions or any properties or landowners that you think might benefit from the Land Bank Authority, please don't hesitate to send them our way, and we'll see what we can make happen for them. So with that,
Very good.
I'll take
I've
your
been to
questions.
several of their meetings, and it's pretty enlightening. I didn't realize that they did everything they do, of course, and it's pretty enlightening and pretty exciting that what's available out there if you just go after it.
Yeah, and people can always, I know it's not always the most desirable, but people can always donate property to the Land Bank Authority as well if it's, really become to the point where it's completely obsolete and they're not sure what to do with it. The Land Bank does acquire properties through donation as well, so. Yeah,
Very
that's what I
good.
have for you guys.
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Zacola, I see you took a ride down south today and kind of enlighten us a little bit.
Well, hi, everyone. I'm Mike Stokola with Networks Northwest, formerly your county planning director. Katie took over. She's doing a great job. So when I was still with the county, we were starting our master planning process, and one of the questions that we really wanted to get out there was who really supports a collaborative land use permitting system and who doesn't? And we want to put that as part of our plan for the future of the planning department as well as the master plan. So with that, Networks Northwest actually won the RFP and were awarded the master planning process, but the question was still out there of, which I wanted to answer, which was who really was collaborative, who wanted to work collaboratively on a land use permitting system. So that's what I'm here to ask that question tonight, so kind of came full circle on me. And I know that not every township is interested in that, and some want me to go more in depth than others. If there's something that you guys want more in-depth information on, feel free to stop me. If not, I'll just continue through it. So the existing program has proven really successful for the currently participating local units, villages, and townships. The current system was initiated in 2018. I believe at one time we had 8 of them. I think we're down to 6 municipalities right now. Overall, the townships seem to be that are with us seem to re-enlist our services, or the county services, excuse me, and have signed on for multiple years. Through the master plan process, the county is seeking to develop a policy to provide guidance in Manistee County Master Plan for additional collaboration. So I want to start out with nothing is set in motion. There's no firm agreed upon model, but I do want to touch on the models a little bit just so you guys know what's available. The current model out there is you hire the county to be your zoning administrator essentially. You pay them a fee under a new contract. Most contracts are about 3 years right now. And then the county's able to provide those services to you based on the contracted and agreed upon scope. The second model out there is what's called a joint planning commission.
And this would be where multiple townships enter into a joint planning or land use or zoning ordinance where they all agree upon basically the same definitions, the same processes, procedures. And there's benefits to the system, which I will get into in a minute, but with that, they have to agree upon certain things, and it would have to be worked out with the county on this model. There's a good Sligo County over in Wexford does it. They have a joint planning commission, but basically what it is you, instead of having individual planning commissions, you guys have one that you put a representative on there, and then they represent the township's interests within that planning commission. The issues that are, you keep, like I said, you keep your own, the definitions remain the same, processes are all the same, zoning board of appeals would be the same, and special use and planning unit developments would all be the same, but the difference would be you would keep your zoning districts your own. So like your setbacks would remain yours, whatever you wanted your areas zoned on would be yours, but it would be all one zoning unit. So there is negatives to that, and we'll, like I said, talk about that in a minute. And then the last one, the last model that's out there is county-wide zoning, which is the county takes it in, they do everything for everybody, they set the land use map, they have their own zoning ordinance, and they fit the bill for it, but from my experience with the county, there's no desire at the county to take on that model. So really it's just one or the other of the two I first started. So the real cons on the second model I talked about is it would have to be figured out how you guys would handle like zoning board of appeals requests. Because if you did enter in the model fully, you would have to place some of your independence, for lack of a better word, into another township, to where you're like, well, we want this to mean this, and then they could disagree and overrule you in your own township. So that's a little bit of a scary thing, but it does promote joint agreements within the county as a whole. There's also, you'd have to figure out, I'm sorry, give me 1 second. It would be, so let me go to the pros, I guess that would be more better to. There's professional staff for the current model that's in there right now. You have planners, EAs, code enforcement, soil erosions, and admin. They work 8:30 to 5 every day of the week, except for major holidays. There's applications, they're fillable, they're online, they're downloadable. There's technology in the office with GIS. And then there's like third-party consistent enforcement. So one thing that we ran into a lot of times with a lot of different townships was you'd have a guy living in the township trying to enforce on his neighbors, and it just doesn't ever end up well. It's pretty difficult for them to be there and do that. So a lot of times they appreciated the third-party person coming in and enforcing it across the board equally. Nobody's really favored on that, and I'm not saying that's happening here, I'm just saying what we ran into when I was doing it. And then we had a single stop for development and permits, except for building permits, because those were done through the state at the time. And I know all this doesn't apply to you guys, because you guys have your own building department, you have your own staff, but really I'm just here, don't shoot the messenger, to gather the information so that we can put it in the master plan. So the cons to it is, when I was there, we had 8 different zoning ordinances that we had to look at with a staff of pretty much 3 planners. So there was a difficult of multiple regulations for each jurisdiction. That, it's kind of like a negative, but that's the kind of the positive as well, is that section 2 where you have a joint where everything's the same. So when you walk in on any municipality within the county, you could sit there and say, oh, I know what that is off the top of my head. You know, here's what it is, and it makes the processes run a lot smoother. It also works out for developers that are coming into your community. We have certain developers that won't work in a different jurisdiction because they don't know the zoning ordinance. Hey, I've been working in this jurisdiction for 30 years, I'm gonna continue to work here because I know what it says. I can't get myself in trouble. Okay, great. Well, have you thought about working over here? Nope, don't want to learn it. Great, but if the zoning ordinance was the same, we're hoping they would expand out. So that was the other portion of it. And kind of a positive for working in there, but also a negative for the current staff who have to look at now 6 different zoning ordinances. And so it is difficult for that. And that obviously drives up costs. And when you're looking at that, we want to lower the cost, so that's why the other method of the Joint Planning Commission is kind of a thought process on it, if there's any interest in that method as well. Or even the Model 1. So really, the county is looking to go to a more efficient model. And really, I gave you guys a survey at the beginning of the day when I came in, and we're really looking to know if you guys are interested in that conversation. You know, so I left that with you. I kind of wanted to get them back because we've had, yeah. So, but I'm willing to stick around for you guys, so don't hold up a meeting for me. But with that, I'll take questions.
Mike, who initiated the RFP?
Well, the RFP was for the master plan, it was for the county. So the county master plan is really dated. And so the planning commission at the county initiated and requested that we get the funds, the board approved it. As part of that, when I was with the planning commission at the time, wanted to know the answer. We had a lot of townships that were coming on and saying, hey, we're interested. And then we'd be like, well, are you really interested or are you not really interested? Is there interest in going even further? And so those were questions that we wanted answered when we developed the process. Is to really know, like, hey, we're gonna come to your meeting, we're gonna ask you the question. Instead of, you know, a supervisor here, a supervisor there calling me up and saying,
Well, I understand.
hey, I'm interested, and then like 3 months would go by and I'm trying to plan for additional staff and resources and I couldn't. It made it impossible. And so then it was like, well, this township talked to me 3 months ago, they said they were interested, and then another township would approach me. So then it became like, well, who's in front of who? Like, I only have so much staff availability, so much time, who do I place in front of who? Do I make it first come, first serve? Well, okay, let's just get that out of the way, let's ask the question out front. So that's really where it developed, guys. It wasn't like, hey, we think you're doing a bad job, or we're just, you know, this is where it really came from.
Well, this has been around a long time.
Yeah.
Katie, how many personnel do you have in your office?
So myself, 2 additional planners, a planning assistant, Nancy Baker, she does soil erosion permits mostly, a clerical assistant, and then I actually just got it through the board. I'm hoping it makes it through budget for a full-time code enforcement soil erosion officer, because currently we contract out both of those positions at 20 hours a week. So that is our staff currently. And if I may just add to that same sentiment, I think that putting this question in the master plan is a great idea for the county, because regardless of the opinions of our local units of government, we want your opinion. It's the chance for the public input to be actually put into a plan, regardless of what that is. But I think it will further support or not support this idea going into the future. So, yeah, it's neither here nor there what your opinions are. Please be honest, and we want to make sure that that's documented in a plan properly.
Understood. Questions?
I have tons
Your
of questions.
yeah,
but-
Go ahead.
The second model,
Yep.
countywide.
Yeah.
Is it required to have a common planning commission and board of appeals? Or is that just what your model is?
No,
I mean,
it's just,
say-
it's a more typical of the approach of it. So
Okay.
there is like, that's where I'm like, nothing's set in stone. You guys could develop a process where that you guys remain your own ZBA, your own
That's
planning
what I was
commission. But there's a lot, it's not typical to do it in that aspect.
Okay,
Because it makes it difficult, because let's say that you guys interpret something to mean a certain way at a certain time for one thing, and then Onakama creates it a different way the other way. You have conflicting ways of interpreting that,
if we have common definitions,
right?
and our township sets the standards in each district, let's put it that way. I guess I don't see the conflict, but anyway.
If you're a zoning administrator, you would, I mean, you were, you should say that. It would be if you're interpreting it for two different, if you guys jointly accepted a plan or a zoning ordinance, then it would become an issue. Now, if you guys just said, you know what, when we develop our zoning ordinances, we want to base them off of each other, which a lot of your zoning ordinances language are very close. But if you did that, you would start seeing those things happen naturally. The problem is with zoning ordinances, as they get older and they're widespread over many different municipalities, they will change drastically. And I think you've seen that if you look at, when you look at like common zoning ordinances that were put together by a common person, you'll see that 30 years later, they look vastly different. And what that does is, you know, it changes everything. So like, you know, or you have, when you have so many people that are changing you have 8 different planning commission members that are changing that to help out in their community, or in some cases help themselves, or whatever it may be. Those things will change to where like they mean different things, they're different things. Maybe they had a real problem with X, and they solved it by adding an additional requirements in there that don't exist in the other, and so it's changed dramatically. And then like 10 years later, somebody came in there like, why is that in there? Or they said, we need to put more down because it's still a problem. So you start seeing these sprawling sections on like, one is like recreational vehicle storage. It's always an issue in all the townships. You look at them, they're all really the same, but they're vastly different. And it's because they were originally penned by probably the same person in many of our different townships. And then they just changed massively. They're probably about 20 to 30 years old, most of them. So.
Because I'm not, I'm real curious about the countywide zone.
Yeah, I think when you look at the joint, if you're looking at the
With
model.
standard definitions.
Yeah, if you look at the model number 2, there's a lot of conversation that would have to happen before that.
Before it could be put in
Right,
place.
and like, everybody would have to come to an agreement and understand like, this is what we're entering into, and that's a conversation to have it a wider, and maybe it's only 1 or 2 townships do it, or, you know, a large amount of them do it. But it's whatever you guys would agree upon. And that's why when we came here tonight, we're like, hey, listen, we're not saying, let's implement this, or let's not, or like, this is the way it's gonna be. We're gonna say, hey, these are the common models that you see, and, you know, the question's really in there, like, are you interested in hearing more? You know, like,
Okay.
and so, that's really what it is tonight. It's like, hey, is it just like a no? Because there are some townships out there that's, no, we want to remain our own, we have no desire to work with the others, and then there's other ones that are like, no, you know, we're interested, we'd be, you know, what does it look like? Can you give us some real model examples, like, and so when you're looking at that, I think that, that option or model number 2 needs to be developed further in the county, but is there a desire or an interest even to go to it?
You can do that.
Right. And that's what the county really wants to know. Are you happy with model number 1? And is there an interest there? Some are interested in that, but not option 2 at all. Some are like, option 2 sounds good, maybe I'd listen, but I want to know more. So it's really just throwing that question out to you in that survey, gathering those results, compiling them, and putting them in the master plans, like this is the township side of it. And then like, we really want to ask on the public side of it as well. Like the officials are obviously, you know, might be against it, but then the public might be for it. And so we want to put that out there as well, so. Any other questions?
Yeah, but it,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
it's in the weeds. No, that, take. If they decided to go that direction, that's when they would get questions.
Yeah,
No, and that's where you work out the definitions.
right, you guys would all have to sit down.
Yeah.
And that's really not what we're asking.
Not
We're just
tonight.
like, no, it's just like, hey, is there interest? If so, maybe we will have those conversations at a later date. Now, it probably won't be Networks Northwest unless we're contracted to do so, but on which we do collaboration efforts in other communities. We're doing one in Charlevoix right now, where they're talking about jointly developing a zoning district between the city and the township, so. So those conversations do take place, and it's sometimes not an all or nothing. You can even have a joint planning commission for, let's say you and the city wanted to devise on that, you know, devise something, but I'm not saying that you do, so don't put that in the paper or anything, but like, you guys want to joint develop like a parcel or an area of land together, you could jointly develop that and assign a joint planning commission that would approve those types of things. I think you guys have something similar for like the Renaissance District over there.
That doesn't work well.
There needed to be more controls in it, but like,
That's
yeah,
unfortunate, it doesn't work well.
it was, yes, I will say that it does not work well, but that's because there wasn't enough controls in it.
Right.
But there is ways to do it. So you guys have an example. You learn from that. Maybe you put more controls in it in the stages, and it might work better next time. So, but a lot of those are like development agreements. I think it's called like a 455 or 455 plan, where you can actually enter into agreements with like a neighboring township, where you want to expand sewer infrastructure into that area. You guys, like, I think you guys partner with the city on a lot of it, but you can actually, to help pay that off, they can take it over for a set number of years, you enter into a contract for it, they collect the TIF capture on it until it can be paid off, and then it reverts back to the township. So there's other ways of doing that as well, so, many different ways to get development going, and really, that's not the conversation tonight, but, there are ways of doing it.
Well, I think what we have in place right now works very well.
It does, yeah.
These people out here have worked very hard to put this thing together, and it works pretty well. The thing that I think works the best is it's a one-stop shop. It's,
Yeah, a lot of the things that are in the survey, I think that you guys have either approached us with the county when I was in my time, we helped put them together with you, and then you guys have it now. So it's not so much a, maybe an issue for you guys, but,
That's just what I see hanging around here, so
yeah.
I'm sure there's other comments here.
It's not broke, don't fix it. I think, what we got happening here is running as well as can be expected. Not to say there's no flaws, there's flaws in where you go. But I'd like to keep control of the local community in the community. Not to say that the county's not the community, but the township is our home and heart.
I'll use an example, if maybe it's a fair example, maybe it isn't, you two can answer that question for me. I think we have our own building department for our own building inspections.
Mhm.
The turnaround on those inspections are 36 hour, 24 hour,
24 hour
24 hour.
max.
The state can't provide
No, I mean,
that. No.
I could speak freely, a little bit more than
Sure.
Katie can.
Sure. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to put that.
I would love to see a county building inspector, I really would. The state building inspector, in my opinion, is overworked. There's no possible way that, he can keep up with the building permits and turn around in a real time. I think he does.
11 counties.
Yeah, 11 different counties and
Nothing against,
one person
Right.
doing
I'm just
it.
saying they just can't
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see that developed. That was something I would occasionally would knock on the door and say, hey, we really should develop that, but, at the same time, that always costs money, but that could be a joint venture that, the townships, approach the county with and said, hey, we're paying independently for this. What if we pooled our resources together? Is that something that we could fund as a township? And I know some would be willing to and some wouldn't, but that's kind of how the planning thing started as well. So, I mean, if you guys are already paying for it, well, not going to kick the tires on paying for it for a while, the city's paying for it. I can tell you a lot of the townships aren't happy with the turnaround on building inspections, but that's, maybe just talk to your neighbor on that and say, hey,
Bless you.
is this something that you guys would want to do? And then, try to maybe make it a permanent employee. And that was a lot of the things that were happening with, when we took over zoning, was that there was struggle finding zoning administrators. It wasn't being professionally done. There was conflicts with it, conflicts of interest of people like doing things that they shouldn't have been doing. They weren't reading what it actually said or interpreting it in a legal manner, and it was getting the townships in trouble. And so they were looking for professional services, and that's why they came out. I think like when you approached it from a matter of your own township, where you looked at it and said, we're not happy with the building inspection, we're gonna go out and seek it ourselves. I think that more townships would be willing to do that, but maybe they can only put in a smaller slice of the pie. But they would love and I think favor having building inspections. I know that I've had friends that live out in the rural areas of our county, which, that sounds crazy to even say, but where the building inspector will show up 6 weeks after they put in a building permit, they're not home, and they can't inspect, they never set up a time for them to even meet. So, I mean, I know that happens. So, yeah, I mean, like, I think that's a way that maybe you could jointly work together. The more, compromising things that we can handle even as a county, I think the better. And so, like, yeah, you're giving a good example. Yeah, we really have a good thing. But I would like to see it expanded, and like, I think this is kind of what the zoning thing is. It's the same thing, it's like, hey, you guys have a good thing, we'd like to expand it as a countywide thing, how do we fund that? And that's really where it comes down to.
Thank you.
Anybody
Anyone
else?
else? Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Need to pay the bills.
Already? I'll make a motion to allow the bill paid as presented, along with any additional bills coming in for the balance of the month.
Show support?
Also,
It's been moved and supported that we pay the bills April 1 to April 30, plus the bills coming in for this month. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed, being none carried. The planning commission will have a public hearing to consider the special use permit as Karen suggested on the corner of Frost and US 31, 9 a.m. on Wednesday, May 15th here at the Township Hall. The annual MTA dinner will be in Maple Grove on May 22nd. That starts at 6 p.m. Zoning Board of Appeals, you don't have any at this point?
Not at this time.
The Manistee Township Zoning Board of Appeals would meet on the 4th, one appears. The Planning Commission will meet Wednesday, June 5th, 2024 at 9 a.m. here at the hall, and the next regular board meeting of the Manistee Township Board will be Thursday, June 13th, 2024, 7 p.m. here at the hall. Any other comments? Duke?
Yeah, I just want you to know that you guys have a smart and capable zoning administrator, and if you make, and as a member of the planning commission, I serve at your leisure, okay? So anything that you turn over to the county, right, we lose control of, and having it within the township, I at least once a week have someone stop me either at work or out and about in town and ask me questions about something that's gonna affect them, whether it's apartments or if it's, whether or not their grass needs to be mowed and things like that. So I guess I'm saying I'd like things to stay as they are.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
Yeah, I have a comment. I was a former member of the County Planning Commission and the Township Planning Commission. And I can understand where if you had a uniform zoning ordinance, it would make your job easier, well, the county planner's job easier, because you wouldn't have to know all the different zoning ordinances. But we have our own zoning ordinance, we have our own zoning administrator. If you went with a county plan, you get one person to represent the township out of however many, a dozen, that are gonna be on the county planning commission. And I don't think one person can fairly represent the interests of the township. So I'd like to retain a county, or a township planning commission, and what we're doing with the building department and the zoning administrator.
Thank you. Jim?
I have a little different opinion of this situation. Your decision to close the conversation with the county, I think, is a little bit premature. I think you should leave the door open, because in my opinion, your planning commission and your zoning administrator aren't doing such a good job. I've been to the last two planning commission meetings. There was one question that was raised that kind of troubled me. The presentation was put on by a gentleman about the solar project at Heathlands. And when he finished his presentation, one of the planning commission members asked him if there was any leftover golf equipment that he could have at the Heathlands golf course. Now, to me, that kind of implied maybe that construed the idea that maybe a vote could have been changed or had by maybe
I
a...
think, excuse me, Jim, but I think you're misreading, or putting, I'm not disputing the fact that the question wasn't asked, but I think you're reading a whole lot more into it than what was meant.
I don't think it's appropriate for anybody in a voting position where there's $1 million projects involved to be asking for golf equipment from anybody.
Well, I was there, I took that as a joke.
And he didn't.
You took it as a joke. but
It
I
wasn't
didn't.
asked for the equipment, it was asked if there was any remnants found.
Oh, is that what it was? Okay,
Pardon?
okay. If that's the way you heard it, that's fine.
Okay.
I heard it differently.
Well, that's fine also.
Another thing about some of your decisions you've made, I'm going to bring up another example, is the bulk gas plant at the busiest intersection in Manistee Township. How did we ever approve a gas location there, behind the Wesco station?
Well, it's probably a better place there than it is behind fuel gas where there's one right next to open fire pits.
Well, that
I'm not saying two wrongs make a right.
That fuel storage facility was there before the instant launch campground. Instant launch campground moved in on that gas plant. At the zoning planning commission, we talked about, you guys talked about, property available for commercial development. It was not suitable for 15-story apartment buildings and things like that. There would have been a lot more suitable location for that gas storage facility out by the airport or somewhere else rather than where it's at. There was no need to put that facility there. There was no need for infrastructure, nothing. No reason for it to be there. That's just one example. Another example I'm going to bring up, years back, on the corner of Shaver Road and M22, a piece of property was, you're shaking your head, Dennis.
Yeah, yeah. You're looking right here.
You don't want to hear my comment?
No, that's fine. Move right ahead.
Another example, the corner on the property on Shaver Road and 22 was changed to commercial property. The stipulation was when that building was built, it would be built to look like a house, so it would fit into the community area. Today, it still looks like a house, but there's a huge garage behind it. How did that huge
Is that
garage get
agricultural?
developed?
That is agricultural
Agricultural.
zoning district, yes.
It's commercial.
No, it's not.
It's,
It is agricultural zoning district.
Okay, anyway, the development happened there, that garage was built, and how did that get built in a setting like that? The other question I raise is the property that construction guy in the corner of Lakeshore Road. Why would you change that parcel of property from agricultural to commercial?
What are you talking about, Anthony's?
Anthony's Excavating. Why would you turn that parcel of property from agricultural into commercial?
How would anybody here know that? You know how long that's been?
Pardon me?
How long ago that's been?
What?
That's been changed? If it's been changed, has that been changed?
He's talking about,
Future.
future changes,
Oh,
future proposed changes.
Future proposed change to that property, making it commercial. There's an ideal place for a 15-story tall residential development. Much better location than Frost Road. Much
Sure.
better location than Kennedy School.
If I may, these are your personal opinions.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We have a board of residents that put this together and blend more than one opinion.
Yes.
Now, whatever opinion the board comes up with, obviously cannot satisfy everybody, as we witness here tonight.
That's correct.
Right.
You developed a master plan for the township 2.5 years ago. The change for the development on Lake Shore Road doesn't fit into your master plan. So, in my opinion, don't close the door on the county. Leave the door open because we aren't doing as good a job as we think we are.
We are,
We are.
we are.
We
Be
are.
careful how you use that word, we.
We.
Yeah. Anyone else? Motion's in order.
Make a motion to adjourn.
We'll move supported to adjourn, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, seeing none? Thank you all for your time.